Hello there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here. Video 2 for this week, where the price list will go out Wednesday, January 31st at 9 p.m. Sydney time. If you haven't joined my mailing list, you'll find my email in the listening notes below on this channel, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. This list is city pop, soul, and jazz. So there you go. One of the pleasures of this little club that's been running now for about 5 years, believe it or believe it not, is that because of the nature of how the music arrives here, in that a box arrives and 75% of what's in the box is a surprise to me, I've discovered an inordinate amount of music that I did not know I loved until I found it in the box. Put it on, sat back and thought, wow, this is great. There are some of those records in this list tonight because I try and find duplicates of the things that I adore. And then there are just things that are just so new and so weird and so out of my comfort zone that all I can do is show them to you. And often I'll have people reach out to me and say, yeah, I know about this. This is interesting and this is why. So here we go. The kickoff record tonight is a record called Thanksgiving by a Japanese group called Ramu. Now this came out in 1988 and it is a renowned release in the Japanese city pop genre. Now, I've been spending the last hour diving down the city pop rabbit hole, and I will try and boil it down for you. City pop is a genre that kind of exploded in Japan. It looks like in late 70s, early 80s, and by the time Ramu released Thanksgiving, it was just an absolute phenomenon in Japan. And I would describe city pop as sophisticated, optimistic disco. So it is clearly happy times, good times music. It is very sophisticated. It smacks of 80s. You cannot deny the decade when this record comes on the player. This one has female voices, very sophisticated and elaborate synth kind of setup. In fact, there's a subreddit on Reddit called, /citypop, which is where I've been reading this last little while. And you will find people say, can anyone tell me what the synth sound is on Thanksgiving track, whatever? And people are right into it. I played this earlier. I only played the first track. I think this record has never been played before. It is absolutely pristine. I dropped the needle. It was totally silent. Taking it out of the sleeve, it just felt like opening a new record. Can you see the gloss? It's got the inner looks just like new. There's the young lady whose vocals are all over the record. It's interesting. The first song, let me just get the exact name of it for you. Rainy Night Lady. That sounds like it should be in English, right? Except it's not. It's in Japanese, except for the chorus. This record is extremely rare. There was a repress, I think it was 2019 for Record Store Day, or maybe 2020, on pink vinyl, and it sold out in Japan in a heartbeat. But this is the original from 1988 in pristine condition with the obi. So there you go. Ramu Thanksgiving city pop. I'm on a little bit more familiar ground with this next record, albeit a little bit of a strange lead in. Now, this is the album that landed in a box probably 2 months ago and has been on heavy rotation in Shea McNulty since then. And it is Millie Jackson's Caught Up. You can see the OB, but the web shows 3 people. A man in the middle and 2 ladies caught in the web around him. And that is Millie Jackson. Now, I had no idea who Millie Jackson was, and I played side one of this record, and I immediately thought, that is one of the greatest soul records I have ever heard. It's a concept record about a love triangle between a married man and his wife, and a married man and his girlfriend. And Millie Jackson tells the story from the perspective of those 3, often in the form of long, grooving workouts where she story sings, tells a story in a talky kind of lolloping voice, and yet every so often breaking out with this incredibly powerful voice into these horn crescendos that are really something. Now, I cannot find another copy of that record. I've asked, I will get there, but I have the second best prize. The year after, she released a follow-up called Still Caught Up, which I absolutely love. And Still Caught Up is honestly just as good as its predecessor. It has the same smoking band of guitar and horns. The drumming on these soul records is top notch. The sound quality is wonderful. We still get these long storytelling devices, and you know what? They're quite racy. As she progressed through the 70s, and I've been kind of following her career a bit more tightly now, she's pretty naughty, is Millie. She can get a little bit explicit, and there's a bit of this that goes on in this record. The opening track, Loving Arms, next track, Making the Best of a Bad Situation, which is a real highlight. The memory of a wife, tell her it's over. You can't stand the thought, leftovers. I still love you and you still love me. So this threesome, this tricky situation is ongoing in Still Caught Up, and it's fantastic. Love it to bits. All right, look, there's a lot of great female soul in tonight's list, which I'm very proud of. It's amazing stuff. The story behind this one is really, really interesting, at least to me. Now, Irma Thomas from New Orleans, soul singer who was moderately successful in the mid-60s, released a few albums, and then followed the path to Muscle Shoals. Is it Memphis? Muscle Shoals? I can't remember now. But, Muscle Shoals had helped, were the band, the backing band that had helped, with Aretha Franklin and a load of just the incredible, absolutely incredible Alabama-based soul records from the 60s. And so she went down there in 1967 and she recorded a bunch of tunes with Muscle Shoals Band. And 2 or 3 were released as singles and were fine, moderately successful. But never an album until a Japan-only release in 1980, I think it's 1984, maybe 1986, but it was in the 80s. All the songs from this session were put on a record and released only in Japan until very recently, when Vinyl Me Please did a short run. But this is the original Japanese pressing on the Black Chess label. It's amazing. I swear to God, some of the female soul on tonight's list is top notch. We will come back to female soul, but I'm going to... Actually, I mentioned Aretha Franklin. I'm going to go to Aretha because Spirit in the Dark has become a touchstone record for Shortcuts, and rightfully so. This is an amazing Japanese first press. Now you'll notice it's not called Spirit in the Dark because the Japanese first press, for reasons that I cannot get to the bottom of, had renamed this record Don't Play That Song, which is the opening track, and what an opening track it is. Now you've heard me wax lyrical about this record before. Quite a few Aretha originals, some stellar cover versions. For example, The Thrill Is Gone. She plays piano in every single track, which I think is part of the reason why this is in the absolute top echelon of Aretha Franklin records. This is the first press, which means it's on the original green and blue Atlantic label. Now, the only thing about this record is I insist on near mint vinyl in this box, but every so often they will stick a record in the box that's not near mint vinyl because they know that I love it. And so that's what they've done here. I've never seen that gatefold. I've never seen that label. There is a bit of noise with this record. I've played it. I still thoroughly enjoyed it. It's clearly a VG/VG plus. It's an absolute stone cold masterpiece. And I still cannot figure out why it's called Don't Play That Song instead of Spirit in the Dark. Isn't that sleeve? The sleeve is astonishing. It's so much better than the repress that I have. The lyric sheet is in the gatefold. Oh, man. Brilliant. All right. There is still some more female soul to come, but I do have a soundtrack, some funk, and some jazz to talk to you about. The jazz I'm going to talk about now. This is Blowing the Blues Away by the Horace Silver Quintet and Trio. So the story behind this pressing is really interesting. King Records was a kind of key label in Japan, and they were kind of folding, wrapping up. I'm not quite sure how the relationship with Blue Note worked in Japan. But in the early 80s, whatever the machinations in politics were, King Records was no longer. And they decided that they would pluck 15 records from the Blue Note catalog and release them in this super heavy, you're going to trust me on this, vinyl with full reproductions of the original Blue Note, right down to the original kind of rice paper cardboard sleeve, obviously the original obi. You're gonna have to trust me on this. The sleeve is utterly beautiful. The band here, Blue Mitchell on trumpet, Junior Cook on tenor sax, obviously Horace Silver on piano, Eugene Taylor on bass, and Louis Hayes on drums. This is kind of a duplicate copy for me. And a lot of you will know that I absolutely adore piano jazz. And this record has some of the most beautiful moments that I've heard in a long time. It's brilliant. And this pressing is stellar. Honestly, for those of you who love this type of thing, this record's going to blow your mind. It's that good. And this next one is just as good. This is a Blue Note repress, I think again from the late 70s, of A Fickle Sonance by Jackie McLean. Again, this is in utterly magnificent condition. Look at that sleeve. The band here, wow. Tommy Turrentine on trumpet, Jackie McLean alto sax, Sonny Clark on piano, Butch Warren on bass, and Billy Higgins on drums. The opening track on this, 5 Will Get You 10, is... And you know, that this period of late 50s into early 60s jazz is so transformative. And what's really, you know how much I like the sleeve notes on these things. And there was something I noticed earlier that I'm just going to call out. Now, I don't know who, I can see, you can see this, who wrote the sleeve notes. You can see there, Ira Gittler. You see that? Just there. Ira Gittler wrote the sleeve notes for that and wrote the sleeve notes for A Fickle Sonance. Sonance, I'd look up. Sonance is an obsolete word now, but it effectively means a tune or a melody. I was thinking as I was listening to this record as to why Jackie McLean would call the record those words, A Fickle Sonance, which I actually really like. And I think it's clearly that his sound was changing. This is the last record before Jackie McLean became, I think, really deeply embedded in the free jazz world. And that's where I get off the bus, to be honest. But that record, I think, is not flawed. It's beautiful in many ways, albeit a challenge in places. And I have 3 records left, and I love all 3. I don't know what order to do them in. I'm going to go with this one first. Ennio Morricone. Soundtrack genius. What I love about this particular soundtrack is that this is the second of the legendary Sergio Leone trilogy. So this is for a few dollars more. This is not a few dollars more. This is for a few dollars more. I'll come back to that in a second. Oh my gosh, what's this one called? It's for a few dollars more. One half of the record is for a few dollars more, and the other is this, and I can't remember what it is, which is going to drive me absolutely bloody nuts. But it's basically, Ennio Morricone had done the soundtrack to 2 classic westerns and didn't have enough to warrant a singular release. So he put side A, a few dollars more, and side B, this other one that I can't remember the name of. Per qualche dollaro in più, it's got to be for a few dollars more. This one... Anyway, they're both classic spaghetti westerns, and you get both soundtracks on... And everything's in Italian, which is so un-Japanese. Italian and Japanese, which is clearly not very helpful. But there you go. It's a very, very beautiful thing, as you can see. All right, now 2 records to go. I'm going to go back here. I was telling you about female soul. I'm going to talk about this record. This is called Inside by the Glass House. And this is an interesting back history, because Some of the great songwriters from Motown, Holland and Tozier and all those guys, they left Motown in the late 60s and they went on to find this label, the Invictus label. Now, they couldn't take the talent with them, so they had to recruit more of their own. And this band, the Glass House, were three female voices that had no recording history. And they put them all together and they made this big, ballsy, bluesy soul record. It's so interesting. You know, it starts off with kind of almost kind of ballads that could be considered a bit syrupy. And then as the record progresses, you get psych guitar and fuzz and drums and all sorts. Yeah, on the Invictus label with the Obi. And then finally, one of my favourite bands of the 70s, one of my favourite greatest hits records, and it's not very often I have greatest hits records on this list, but when it's the greatest hits of Kool and the Gang, then you know what? You're going to have to let me away with it. Listen to this for a track list. So the opening salvo is basically almost like side one of Wild and Peaceful, the incredible debut album by Kool and the Gang. By the way, I'm going to have some copies of that coming in a little while. I've been asking. Funky stuff, more funky stuff, soul vibration, jungle boogie, Hollywood swinging. What a sight of music. Just wonderful. And then Higher Playing Music is the Message, Rated X, and Good Times on side two. Here they are. Look at that. Kool and the Gang. Love it. All right. So, soundtracks, soul, funk, jazz, and city pop. There you have it. That's the list, the second list for this Wednesday. If you found it interesting, even though I forgot the name of that Ennio Morricone movie, like and comment or email me, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Hope you enjoyed this. All the best and keep spinning that black gold.